I'm going to go ahead and call this special meeting to order. Date is December 3rd, 2024. It is approximately 1:07 p.m. Karen, do you want to do a roll call, please?
Commissioner DeVito?
Present.
Commissioner Lori?
Present.
Commissioner Moore?
Present.
Interim City Manager Michael Burkhardt?
Here.
Don, City Attorney?
Here.
And Sheila Walker, payroll?
Here. I'm here.
And Michelle Myers?
I'm here. You're here.
And I'm here, of course.
Okay, with that, I'm going to ask Commissioner Moore, if you would please lead us an invocation. Stand if you're able.
Let's bow our heads. Dear Heavenly Father, we want to thank you for allowing us to come together. We thank you for your grace and for your mercy. We ask that you look over us today as we make decisions. Help us to make honest and good decisions on today. And Father God, we thank you for all that you have done for us. We forever praise your name. Amen.
Amen. Our pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Karen, if you will please mark Commissioner Burton as present. With that, I just want to make a couple of announcements. We have a big weekend coming up. So as everybody knows, we changed everything. So the holiday market is now going to be at Eagle Lion Park. It's going to begin at 12 and it will end at 6 p.m. The parade will start at 1 p.m. down at South State Bank. And we have, thankfully, we have got quite a number of entries. So we're excited about that. We're asking people to line up anywhere between 11:30 to noon. They'll line up and then they'll head south at 1 o'clock. Commissioners, is everybody here planning to be in the parade? Okay. Commissioner Diaz?
Well, I'm also supposed to be at the Presbyterian Church all morning,
Okay.
so, and
Can you not slip out and get to the parade by
well, I was
a little
gonna say,
before 1 o'clock?
probably could do that. So, yes, I think I can do that. If I can, I'll let you know. But I know I can't be there at 12.
And that's fine. That's fine, because you're gonna be on your golf cart, correct? Are you gonna walk?
That was a question I was hoping we could cover at the end of the meeting,
Okay.
how we were all going.
We can do that. We can do that at the end of the meeting, how everybody wants to participate. But just for the general public, I'm making the announcement. And then at 5 o'clock, we'll kick off the lighting of the park. As everybody can see, we're in the process of that. Thank you to all the many volunteers and to our city staff that has assisted with this. Yeah, it's a lot of work. It is a lot of work, but it's gonna be well worth it, and we'll light the park, probably about 5:30. And so with that, we're excited, and, I'm gonna open it up for public comments at this time. If we have any public comments. Karen, do you have any cards? Okay. Would anybody like to say anything at this time before we get into our business? Okay. Then I will close public comment. And I'm gonna hand it over to Mr. Holmes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So the purpose for my being here today, and as you see on your agenda, is for me to discuss, announce the settlement of litigation that was previously pending involving the city and involving the mayor, who were the last remaining defendants that had not previously been dismissed from the lawsuit in which Mr. Peterson was the plaintiff. To maybe answer a question that hasn't yet been asked, I'll tell you that my initial thoughts were to have this as an executive session, which you're entitled to do, to discuss settlement and pending litigations. But in reflection, I wasn't comfortable that a meeting at this time would meet the spirit of the executive session law, in that while there's not been a dismissal of the suit formally, there has practically been a settlement. And so I did not want to stretch the criteria of pending litigation, and basically create an issue that in my opinion, just didn't need to exist. So for that reason, I asked that we just have the meeting, open meeting, and we can move from there. As I think all of you knew, I know it was announced at a meeting, the litigation at issue was pending in federal court, Middle District, Jacksonville Division. Our magistrate was Miss Mark Barksdale, and she ordered a process that is becoming popular in federal court, but is not really known to the state court system, and that it's essentially an involuntary settlement conference. In the state court system, as you probably know, any of you that have dealt with the system much, mediation is a very prominent feature of the state court system now, where you have a private mediator not connected with court other than they're certified by the state as being a mediator. The parties agree upon the mediator, the parties voluntarily, maybe volunteer is a bit of a stretch because it's kind of now it's almost become mandatory that you at least try mediation in the state court system. But point is, it's a system where the mediator isn't connected to the court. The parties select the mediator. There's a process of kind of a monitored settlement discussion, and you either reach a result or you don't. And all the court knows is that you either reached a result or you didn't. The court doesn't know details. The court just knows you either reached a result or you didn't. And if you reached a result, the settlement agreement is that the court is advised of the agreement, but not the negotiations. By the way, that brings up a point. I'm not free to discuss the negotiations here either. So I won't discuss the details of the negotiation because we were advised that we shouldn't or couldn't. The system that the federal court uses is a little different, or it's the one that's being used now. And it's one in which at some point the court directs you to participate in a settlement discussion conference process. And the magistrate herself in this case acts as the mediator. So the person that may be hearing dispositive motions or various issues that come before the court is the person that's handling the mediation. And that's a different process for me. I won't tell you I'm thrilled with it. In that, I'll leave it at that. I'm not saying that I'm thrilled with it, but it was one that was not, I don't think either party requested. It was one that was basically imposed. And I understand the federal courts have a lot of cases pending, and there's a lot of desire to eliminate cases short of trial. And so we were directed, all sides were directed to participate in this settlement discussion. As I said, it was at the courthouse in Jacksonville, and the actual magistrate, along with one of her legal assistants, and then ultimately a second, they acted as the mediator, or I guess the facilitator, maybe a better term, the facilitator. The end result was that a settlement was agreed upon. I think we started at about 9 a.m. I didn't look at the exact time when we finished, but it was in the 2:30 time frame, I believe. 2:30.
Closer to 4, I think.
I'm sorry.
I think closer to 4.
Well, by the time we
By the
finished,
time we finished, yeah.
but I think we had kind of the last hour, 45 minutes were almost spent trying to get the details of the agreement. So, but it was a full day. It was not a 15-minute conversation or endeavor. They say the key to a mediation being termed successful is that nobody feels like they won and everybody feels like they lost. I think that may be a description of what happened. And I'm saying that from both sides. But the end result is there was a resolution. That resolution, as you know, or may know, you had a zero deductible insurance policy. There was no city funds involved. I was not the lead attorney in this case. Matter of fact, I wasn't even an attorney of record in the case. I was asked to attend by the attorney of record who was in the case, very competent attorney that is serves a lot of municipalities, Ms. Susan Early from the Marks Gray firm in Jacksonville. She was the attorney. There had originally been, just to kind of give you information that I can give you, a senior claims analyst from the insurance company was to attend, and something arose and she couldn't attend, and so at almost last minute, I guess it was a few days notice, I was asked if I would attend, so I did. I have worked with Ms. Early before on behalf of other municipalities in other litigation. She is she is an extremely competent attorney. I understand that the attorney on the other side is an extremely competent attorney as well. So I think you had two very competent, skilled attorneys in the endeavor. Now, the lead attorney for the plaintiff was not there, but an associate in the office was. And as I said, everything I saw, there was nothing that I saw that indicated she was not a very skilled attorney as well. So the end result was the case settled with the defendants without there being an allocation between them agreeing to pay a total of $55,000 inclusive of attorney's fees. There was no attorney's fees extra. Each side was to pay their own attorney's fees. As I said, the insurance company is funding the entire settlement. There's no money coming out of the budget or treasury of the city of Crescent City, and the plaintiff is paying their own attorney's fees. From my perspective, as I said a minute ago, I think the key to a mediation I shouldn't say that. A common characteristic of mediations that result in a resolution is that nobody feels like they won. Maybe I'm wrong because I have not asked the plaintiff whether he felt like he won, but I believe that it's a fair observation to say that probably nobody felt like they won and everybody felt like they lost to a degree, all things considered. But again, I shouldn't speak for the plaintiff because I did not have a conversation with him to ask how he felt about the end result. From my perspective, the wisdom of the settlement was the following, and I won't rank them necessarily in order of priority, but one, this litigation is over. Now, you may think that's restating the obvious, but as someone who's litigated a lot over the last 48 years, I don't think I'm restating the obvious. The magistrate advised us during the caucus that happens at the beginning of the process before you split up and go in your separate rooms, that since no discovery had taken place in this case, in other words, the process of depositions and written questions and requests for production, that we were ordered into this settlement conference before discovery, which is good and bad in that, one, you haven't spent the time the discovery occasions, but also neither side has some of the facts or potential evidence that discovery might reveal. And it's a two-way street for both the plaintiff and the defendant. So that had not occurred. And in view of that, and in view of the caseload, it was her position that we could very well be looking at as long as 2 years before this case went to trial. And then you have the possibility of appeal. And that's a time frame when everyone has the distraction, inconvenience, and maybe even stress of pending litigation. And you're having people go to depositions. You're having, that process is not a fun process for anybody but the attorney. From my observations, you're having the written questions that have to be answered by personnel from the city. You're dealing with probably multiple trips to Jacksonville to attend motion hearing and other types of procedures. So it would not be an overstatement to say that litigation in federal court over an extended period of time is a significant distraction, inconvenience, and maybe even to some of it traumatic. That's done for both sides, and that applies to both sides. And from my perspective at this point, the healing, the putting it behind you can occur from both sides. I'm not saying it will, because I don't know all the personalities involved, but I'm saying it can. It's not something that where a wound is going to be reopened every time somebody gets a new set of interrogatories, which are the written questions they have to be answered under oath, or every time there's a deposition and, people hear things they don't want to hear, or they're asked questions they don't want to hear. And that animosity that could be in play stays in play for a long time. So not the least of the factors is it's open. And if everybody chooses to, they can move on and put it behind and get about the business of being a city. Secondly, from a cost perspective, legal expenses today are, if you haven't had the pleasure of litigation, they're significant. I don't know what the expenses would have been if this case moved over the next 2 years and gone through a full trial. The last trial that I actually had a roll in federal court was a number of years ago, and the total attorney's fees on our side was $250,000. It was not a substantially long trial. It was 3 days. And the discovery shouldn't have been much more than this. That was the amount the court awarded, not what anyone submitted bills for. That was what the court awarded, was $250,000. So today, and that was when rates were a lot lower than they are now, folks. So I don't know what the total number would have been in terms of the attorney's fees that the city would have paid. Because while from the plaintiff's side, the plaintiff might have had and I don't know this for a fact, but I'm assuming the plaintiff might have had a contingency relationship with their attorney, so that the attorney got a percentage, perhaps. But you have to understand that in federal court, had the plaintiff been successful in getting any award, the court had the ability to award attorney's fees on top of the amount of award that would be in addition to the amount. In this case, the attorney's fees were part of the settlement, so there was no separate award of attorney's fees. But the attorney's fees for the city, for the insurance company, there's no way in my belief or way of thinking that our attorney's fees would have been less than $55,000 over the next 2 years and then after a trial. In addition, I don't care what you hear on TV or what attorney makes a statement that they can predict outcomes. It's, in my opinion, that would be a false statement. Will you put a case in the hands of 8 jurors, 8 people whose outlooks, way of thinking are maybe not the same as yours, you don't know, you, in my opinion, you would be very presumptuous to think that you can predict what the outcome would be on either side. And I've seen any experienced trial attorney I just don't believe any experienced trial attorney will tell you they can absolutely predict an outcome of a case in a civil case. And again, as I said, in this case, if there had been an award that was even nominal in amount, the court had the ability to award attorney's fees on top. From my perspective, this case had some risk, primarily, and again, I was not involved in the case from start to finish, and there have not been depositions taken. So I'm relying upon what I'm being told by the attorney that had been involved from the beginning, who I do trust, and I think he's a very competent attorney. But it appeared from my conversations with her that there was the particular count that probably posed the greatest risk to the city was the count that involved the intrusion into a storage facility of the plaintiff. And storage facility is one of those things you can fight about and could have, and probably would have thought about for a while. But that would have been the Google account of the plaintiff, where it was accessed by, or allegedly accessed by people who were either acting on behalf or thought they were acting on behalf of the city. And that action of accessing that Google account could have been something that resulted in a damage award. Again, there was a lot to come out, and how all that would have fleshed out, I don't know. But that was, from our way of thinking, her way of thinking, which I agreed with, probably the greatest downside risk to the city was that a jury would take offense to that, and that there would be some award of damages based upon that count. And I'm not saying the other two couldn't have prevailed, but I'm saying that was, from our process in our way of thinking, the greatest downside risk factor. And if an award came out, again, predicting an outcome and an amount, in my opinion, it's a gamble. You go to Las Vegas and you probably have better odds of coming up with what you think is, with the accurate result. I've seen them, I've just seen people surprised too many times. I mean, there are things that you think you can count on and rely upon, and then sometimes you'll just get totally surprised. Settlements are a way of eliminating that uncertainty. You know, you have an amount. This resulted in a release that I have been provided today to look at, and I'm sure it's been provided to the other side. To the best of my knowledge, it has not been signed yet, but I'm not saying that's because there's an objection to it. Just don't think we've got that far in the process. But the terms that were agreed upon, which this is not talking about negotiation now, I'm talking about the terms that were agreed upon, are encompassed within this release or incorporated in the release, and they involve a total release without any admission of liability by any party. So no admission of wrongdoing or liability, but a settlement in recognition of the uncertainty of litigation and the cost of same. And the release would end all claims that were filed or could have been filed as a result of any of the circumstances that led to the filing of the suit that was filed. There were, before today, multiple defendants. A couple of those, several of those were dismissed from the case before we ended up in the settlement discussions. Our settlement basically did not involve them, although, as I said, the release itself speaks to claims against employees, agents of the city, as well as the two named people. So, from my perspective, it was a good settlement. Again, as I said, almost every trial attorney likes to think they beat a case at trial, but at some point you have to weigh the cost versus the benefit. And in my opinion, especially since we were dealing with insurance money, this one was, in my opinion, a worthwhile settlement that served the best interest of the city. And so that's where we are. I'll try to answer questions if I can, understanding what I've already said, and that is I will respect the admonition that the actual negotiations themselves remain confidential.
Thank you, Tom. Commissioners, do you have any questions?
I do. Okay, thank you, Mayor. Mr. Hall, so a couple questions. It's my understanding that usually a commission would be asked to approve a settlement. We are not. Is that because it's within the insurance limits and it doesn't involve us to pay funds?
Yes. I don't want to say this in the wrong way, but to a pretty good extent, the insurance, we were not driving the boat completely, you follow what I'm saying? We had, the money was not coming out of our purse.
Insurance.
Ma'am?
Just like my homeowner's insurance.
Exactly.
If their attorney is defending me, then they are partially driving the boat.
And I'm not gonna overstate and say that if the commission had just taken an absolute adamant stance and say, we are not settling, period, we don't care. I don't know what the response of the insurance company might have been. So I'm not, but I will say that normally insurance companies are looking at resolutions of cases from one aspect, and that is financial. Where am I going to have the least investment if I'm the insurance company? And the realities of litigation in federal court are not lost upon them, and I think that the number of the relatively certain amount of attorney's fees and costs that are gonna be incurred over the next, court reporters, simple thing like taking a deposition now. I mean, you're talking about paying a court reporter per diem and then paying per page for the transcript. You take 10 depositions and you'd be astounded at the numbers that,
I know,
ma'am,
I know.
right. So from their perspective, it's a financial undertaking.
I just want to understand kind of the posture
Yes,
that
ma'am.
we're in as a commission,
Yes, ma'am?
why things have happened the way they've happened. So basically, our approval isn't needed because the court doesn't want it, the insurance company doesn't want it, and the city is not paying, we don't have to allocate money out of the city budget for the settlement, correct?
I don't know, I have to be careful about how I overstate this, or if I overstate it, or how I state this. I think that the appearance in Jacksonville by your attorney, who was representing the city, your attorney, not me, I mean, I am your attorney, but I'm not the attorney that represented you in the litigation. I think that it was her position that she came with settlement authority, as long as she settled it at a level that the insurance company was happy with and that didn't involve any city funds.
But, and for all I know, I mean, I am now in my second term as a city commissioner, and one of the things that I think this commission is not particularly well informed on is our insurance coverage, particularly our insurance coverage for this kind of litigation.
Yes, ma'am?
As far as I recall, I think I've asked maybe once for a report of pending litigation that we have. Because I know we've been, when I came onto the commission, there was some lawsuits going on, I think. And I think there are a couple now about other things. We never really get reports on those, and I've asked what our insurance coverage is, and we have not really had an update on that, so.
I'll look into it for you. I know that in this particular case, you had $1 million worth of coverage and you had a 0 deductible, which was something I was concerned about making certain I was aware of before actually, I guess it was when we were in the conference. I asked the attorney for the insurance, or our attorney, to confirm for me that our coverage was $1 million and that and that we had no deductible, that it was a 100% funded settlement from the insurance company. She confirmed that by cell phone, actually, or access to confirm that. So yes, ma'am. Other than that, I don't know if that 1 million was per claim or an aggregate number. I can find that out for you, and I will. But
I mean, to me, I think all commissioners should know this, and
yeah,
it's very helpful because it kind of goes to how we handle budget.
sure.
We
Well,
talk
we
about,
have a limit too, though. We have if you're in the state court, you have a limit, but when you go to federal court, it's different, correct?
What do you mean?
Well,
sovereign
sovereign
immunity.
immunity, our sovereign immunity.
Only
So-
applies to certain claims, though.
Right.
Right,
Sorry,
so,
you go.
The other thing, because I don't want to really get down into the,
well, I have a couple more
well,
questions.
let me finish.
Yeah.
Mr. Holmes, if you would just also, just for everyone, that knowing that we had an opportunity to settle this, and if we chose not to, the insurance company later on, if there was a jury award, that could that possibly have put us in jeopardy of having to pay if it went over and above the offered settlement to the insurance company?
Well, you only have that amount of coverage.
Right.
Now, as far as what if it was 200,000, and they had a chance to settle it at 55? I don't know that would have resulted in them refusing to cover, but it might have had ramifications as far as your future insurability. Because for insurance, it's a numbers game.
Yeah.
And they could get out of this one now at 55, they resolve a claim, they stop pending for 2 years, they don't have to hold a risk envelope over here open. And from our perspective, like I said, it wasn't our money that we were throwing on the table, and this may sound harsh to you, but to an extent, and I won't say it, it was deemed a wise move.
Yeah, I mean, but basically, this is settled,
Yes, ma'am.
okay? We're paying, a certain amount of money. to
The
settle,
insurance company is.
Okay, and, it's behind us.
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner DeVito, you think you can?
Sure, thank you. And I'm not complaining about settling.
Yeah.
As I say, this.
I wasn't taking it that way.
Oh, good. Well, I mean, I don't want anyone to think that I have any complaint with the insurance company decision because they're supposed to handle these things. So it's my understanding, that this, I've never seen a copy of the complaint. This was a federal civil rights case,
It was a federal case,
a federal case.
right? Federal claims based upon multiple theories, but I don't know that I'd call it, I don't know that I'd call it civil rights.
I mean, was it a constant, I thought I read this in the paper, that's where I think I got most of my information. Did it involve, violations of constitutional rights? That's what I mean about civil rights.
As I said, I've not been your attorney in this case at all. I've not participated in the defense of the case, which, that's what the insurance company does, but, anyway, I'll leave it at that.
So, and then, 'cause I just remember, when Jay Asbury was our attorney, he advised us at one point, our liability for, law enforcement that we then employed was unlimited liability if it involved civil rights. That was how he described it to us. So I didn't know if that would apply in this case. But more particularly, and you may not know this might be a question for the insurance company. It seemed like there was the particular risk if we went to trial from the allegations in the complaint had to do with handling something in a Google account on storage facility, whatever, something that someone did here. Is it likely that they are going to, maybe we should ask them, do they typically have any recommendations for us when we have a lawsuit, how we can avoid that particular issue in the future?
Well,
As far as policies, procedures, how our staff handles things.
I think that we could probably all learn from this and that, and maybe I don't claim in any way, shape, or form to be a computer expert, not even close. But I think there's a distinction between something being, quote, on a computer and a computer being used to access a storage facility that's not on the computer, if you follow what I'm saying.
Yes.
So, that may be something that could be dealt with from the standpoint of a policy, i.e. if you have a city computer that someone is using and turns back in, it may be fair game to look at what's been stored on that computer. But I think the key gravamen of that particular element was that computer, there was apparently, it's alleged that there was an account open on the computer that was not, it was a personal account, and that computer was then utilized to access that account after the person had turned it in. I think that was the key, as compared to simply finding that the account was open and closing it and moving on down the road. But perhaps those kinds of things can be dealt with from the standpoint of, as I said, I am not a computer expert in any way, shape, or form, but perhaps as a policy, if someone is issued a laptop or has a computer that they use, it's password protected or whatever, you have an IT person that is an expert that takes that computer when it comes in and basically closes out any programs that are open that belong to the holder of the computer. And if it's your desire to see if the computer has anything in its hard drive that would be problematic, that person could do that. And that person could make a confidential report to the attorney or something like that might avoid, some of what happened in this case.
And we
Or
did
that
not
is
have
alleged.
that at that time, and we do now.
We have that now.
We have a computer, we have an IT, we have an IT company now. At the time, we did not have an IT. We had, an employee that dabbled in it.
We had a part-time employee, and I guess this is.
No, he was a full-time employee. He
But
was dabbled,
part-time IT.
well,
We run an IT expert, now we do have an IT
and we do
expert.
have an IT expert.
But I guess, what comes to my mind, and this is not really for Mr. Holmes, it's for my fellow commissioners. At one point, when Mr. Rudd was here, we started, an update of our employee policies and procedures. We left that midway. I guess we went on to something else. But it's my recollection that, in the computer world, that the laws have changed over time. I seem to remember at different points in my working career, that say what an employee put in an email or what they used email for, their personal business was personal business, and then maybe for a while it wasn't personal business if it was on the city computer. So I guess all I'm saying is, maybe for a couple of reasons, we probably should finish our updated policies and procedures.
And I would agree with that.
And Michael has pulled that out, and he has started down that path already.
And
So-
for another reason, as I've advised people for a long, long time, if you get a public records request, let's say, and let's say somehow or other it ends up into some sort of litigation or motion to compel, you have to remember that if you're using a personal device and you're also transacting city business on it, or if you're using a city device and acting personal business on it, you may find that thing being viewed by, under court order, someone, and you may find there may be ramifications. I'll leave it at that. So I think there is a good basis and reason for a policy that talks about what an employee can use or a representative of the town can use a city computer for. You know, what they use their own personal computer for is a different ballgame. But if it's a city computer, I think Commissioner DeVito, that's probably an area that should be looked at.
Right, because, I mean, frankly, even though, this is my fellow commissioners, we have an IT person, but everybody needs to know, like our attorney was saying, what you're supposed to do, what you're not supposed to do. If you have any questions,
Well,
you know, who you
and
go to.
I think Michael, like I said, he's pulled that out, and we're gonna head down that road, because we found that we need to do that.
Commissioners, I can put together a memo and attach it, the current policy and procedures regarding IT usage, so that not only the commission has it, but also the staff has it, just as an update.
Yeah, but I'm saying, we started looking at our employee policies and procedures. I think city charter says we're supposed to have them. I don't remember the last time they were updated. I thought.
Dale tried, Dale.
I know, but
And we went through it, and we decided that what we had prior was better than what was, you know, a better protection for the city. And so we were gonna have to review that, and like I said, Michael has done that. So, do you have any other questions?
well, I'm just glad to know that our interim city manager has done that. If I hadn't brought this up, I actually wouldn't know. So that's good, because
Well-
actually what Dale did was more taking things out than updating. So that's good to know.
We started the term.
What happened at the court, I guess, last Friday?
Yeah.
It was, and I think that you did them very well. So, you know, as best you could, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Idea of what happened, and, I think our concerns, can be taken up from this point at a different meeting. I mean, I think he was here basically to, inform us, and I appreciate that, thank you, but I think enough's enough, and we should move on to our other business,
Thank you.
today.
You got anything else?
No, thank you.
That's it. I am too, and Mr. Holmes, thank you. I think all parties, I hope all parties involved are glad that we can put this behind us, and like we said, we can go forward. And we need to go forward.
I agree.
You know, and hope that, you know, our, plaintiff in the case, that, you know, that this would be a healing for him also, because I know they've been through a lot.
Well, I hope so too. I hope the city can, all parties can put this aside. I think it has been a distraction, would be a distraction of a greater degree in the future. As I said, wounds are kept open and maybe even salts rubbed in them on both sides as litigation pursues. So hopefully this is something that can be looked at as, you know, positive from that perspective. And if it's something that you're, you know, hopefully you would consider ratifying the terms of the settlement. As I said, it involves a complete release from the plaintiff, dismissal of all claims, and payment by the insurance company of the $55,000. Those are the essential terms.
Okay. Well, I do have a little question.
Yes.
So when would we have an opportunity to do that, to ratify the settlement?
Well, you call a special meeting today, and I guess what you got,
On the 12th.
ma'am?
The 12th.
12, okay, let's do the 12.
Okay, we can get it done on the 12th.
And Mr. Vito, you're more than welcome to call me. As I said, I cannot discuss the confidential aspects of the negotiations in person. I mean, in public. I don't know whether I can I have to try to think about the prospect of whether I can discuss them one-on-one with a commissioner, because you are technically the client.
Right, but I don't really want to discuss the negotiations.
Then great.
And that's
That's simple.
and that's my recommendation too, that we just,
Move on.
that we move on, and, you know, it's just, the whole thing was unfortunate, and I think we all have to be very careful with, as we go forward with what we share, what goes out. Because
Absolutely.
you never know, when the press gets hold of it, you never know what can happen, and so,
I agree.
and unfortunately, news is news, and, it's just unfortunate. And we, you know, so I'm ready to move on.
Okay.
I felt that day that it was time to move on, and, thank you again for,
Absolutely.
and I also thank the plaintiff. I thank you for your willingness to come to a compromise with us so that we all can move on. I know it was,
It seems like it was a long time.
well, it was, and there's a, you know, his life was in limbo too with this, and, so we just appreciate your willingness to put this behind you as well, so, thank you.
All right, then with that, if no further questions, I'm gonna
You gonna scoot?
go back to the collective.
Thank you.
Thank
I
you.
don't know why you wanna do that.
Do we have, before we do, does anybody want to comment, everybody good? All right, thank you,
Thank you.
appreciate it.
Good to see y'all again. Where's Michael went? Where'd Michael go?
I think he went to go.
Oh, okay, well, if he needs me, he can holler.
He knows where to find you.
He does, yes.
So with that, I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna turn this over to George and Jim. So George Forbes and Jim Hanson. Jim, I believe, are you our lead on this, or,
I guess so, but we both work together on it.
okay? And they've asked us, commissioners, if they can do it from where they are, they need a working environment.
Sure, she brings it right off the.
It won't be.
But we can speak up, everybody just speak up.
I understand for online, it's hard to hear it first. But it should come from the owl, so speak into the owl, you're fine.
Which would you prefer?
You're fine. You have a nice deep voice.
Okay, well, first off, I appreciate you're setting a daytime meeting for the two of us. As both of us get older, we kind of try to keep away from driving through backcountry roads in the dark that we're not familiar with.
It's fun. It's really fun doing 65 miles an hour next to another car going the other way.
Yeah.
And then you have the city, and you can hear it, it's like everywhere.
Well, we appreciate you setting the meeting. The memo has been passed out to you that basically summarizes our recommendations George and I met in a noticed public meeting because as what amounts to a committee making a recommendation to you, it has to be noticed under Florida law. Notice was published. So the recommendations on who to interview, we came to those agreement when we started at noon today. And the clerk got this printed out for you just before this meeting. I'll go over these recommendations. First, we're here to provide recommendations on candidates to interview. Reviewing resumes can be a very difficult and complicated job we found over the years. So that's one of the main things we do as part of a search process for cities. We're also here to recommend some timing and steps for the rest of the recruitment process. Those steps are included in this memo. We did review the 13 applications that you had received for the city manager position. We compared those to the recommendation, to the various items that were included in the position profile in terms of knowledge, skills, abilities, that sort of thing, and the needs that you have articulated in that assessment questionnaire that we sent out earlier. So we'd have scoring criteria. Our recommended candidates are in basically three groups. Two of them you see on this memo. The first group is what we consider the top candidates. We recommend you consider interviewing. The choice of who to interview is your choice. It's just our recommendation. There's a second list of candidates we consider to be qualified or very close to it, but we're not recommending in the top group. And then, as usual, about half or more of the candidates in any city received. We do not recommend. Essentially, a lot of these are not qualified, or just that's not unusual for that to happen. I stress our recommendations are based solely on the applications we received. We did not do any background checks. We don't have the time to do that. Don't have the ability to do that, and we do recommend you get that done prior to having any interviews.
I've just been looking through everything, quite a lot of information, but I don't see anything on Carl Brown. I didn't see anything. I don't happen to have a copy of that.
I think
A copy of his resume?
he was like second in line.
All right, let me.
There's one page.
A lot of pages here, so,
Yeah.
okay.
It's on
Yes.
page 4. If you flip
Yeah, it
to
should be on the
page
list.
4.
Yeah.
He's on the list. He's on our list. He doesn't have the resume. That's what she's saying.
It's in the packet, so if she has the packet, it should, he's right after Dwayne, he's right after Dwayne.
Page 5.
5, page 5, sorry.
So the four we're recommending are Jerome Adams, Troy Bell, Michael Brillhart, and Carl Brown as the recommended candidates. Qualified but not recommended are Dwayne Flowers, Jose Mendez, and Drew Wilson. But and again, it's your choice of who to interview. You're just making a recommendation, so make it a little easier for you. So there's several steps we recommend that you take today if possible, and or soon if not possible. We did, I thought you had already received all of the resumes prior to the meeting today.
No,
I guess there was some confusion about that. I asked that the resumes be sent to George and I on a weekly basis, and we did get them. When I heard last week that there was some confusion about that, they ought to be sent to the mayor and council.
You should have gotten it the same time we got it.
Okay, just Mayor,
Yes,
I've been asking for the resumes, at least since the meeting was set, and I was told by the clerk that the city did not have them.
I did not have
Pardon?
I did not have them.
so there's just a miscommunication. My understanding is they went to Sheila, and then Sheila sent them over
Yes.
to both of you. And really did not get involved with it outside of that, because y'all were, I think there was just a miscommunication, and as we go forward, we'll make sure that everybody knows what our duties are.
Right, could be my fault that I didn't tell her directly to send them to you guys. We were concerned about getting them weekly so we could review
And I
them.
think they would, that was kind of, my understanding is getting some recommendations from y'all as to whether or not, because you're the ones, this is your process, and we wanted to follow your process, not our process. And so we want to be respectful of that. So that's where we are, and we have them before us now, and let's move forward.
Right, but
Right,
Mayor, I don't, I mean, while Mr. Holmes was speaking, I was listening to Mr. Holmes. I've never seen these resumes before.
You know what? Neither of your other four
Okay.
fellow commissioners, so.
Right,
So we're gonna go through them now. We're gonna go through them now.
Okay. If you like, we can.
And you know
discuss each
what?
one as you go through.
And honestly, now that I've seen it, I'm actually kind of glad that we didn't have it prior to, and that we have it before us today. So yeah.
It can be a difficult task trying to rank them. But we've
No,
done this a lot.
I think
George and I both do Excel
Apples
spreadsheets.
and oranges kind of thing sometimes, it's hard to kind of, some people have a lot of education and some people have a lot of experience, like how do you rank, you count years, and, I mean, it's not like a mathematical thing, so.
We both do them on our own versions of Excel spreadsheets, and then we get together and debate a while. Usually we agree on all of them, except we have discussion on some.
Well, we appreciate that, I mean, that was what I was under the impression.
The only, as Jim said, the only thing that's missing here is we just rank these and recommend based on what's on the paper.
Right.
We don't know anything about the background check, so we do have a list here, I'm not sure who has it, but we sent a list here of.
Yeah,
We have it.
Background checks.
That was,
And we would suggest that, you do the background checks,
Prior to the interview.
you might want to make some changes from
And that's
there.
that's something
Let
we
me
have.
just give an example, the way the follows, it's qualified, not recommended, excuse me. We probably would have put him in the recommended, but he only had an AS degree, not a bachelor's degree, and the profile says requires a bachelor's degree, so. But also, some of these people also, when you contact them, they have already moved on. They may say, well, they're interested in more, they may have another job, so that's why it's really important that we move very quickly now. Because enough time's gone by, it's normal to lose some candidates because some time has passed, so that's it, so.
Okay, well, the second thing, once you've chosen who to interview, or it may not be the second decision, but you need to choose the dates for the interview process. We discussed when we met earlier, January 9th to 11th, that's a Thursday, Friday, Saturday. We're fine with that, if you're still fine with that, that gives everybody enough time to get them notified, let them set their schedule and get down here for a couple-day process.
The ninth is when we have a commission meeting, right?
I believe that's the Thursday night,
Yeah,
and
it's
it's the
night.
Thursday
Yeah.
night, January 9th is a Thursday.
Yeah, well, the thought would be,
Go ahead.
the thought would be that the candidates will come in Thursday, and if things go according to, most of these candidates are relatively close by, but we have to arrange a place for them and Jim and I to stay that night. And then, Friday morning would be what we call a tour of the city, which means that the department heads would meet with, we need to have the IT person whose contract here, we also want to have them meet with the sheriff.
Mhm.
But the point is that they need to learn about the point of the tours, they not only see your facilities, but they talk with department heads about, what's their accomplishments and what's their concerns about the future, what needs to be done in the future. So the whole purpose is to get them to know the city, know the people before they do their interview. The other part of this is good for the staff too, because when you hire somebody, the staff knows something about the person, they met with the person, at least at the department head level, and they don't wonder if whoever selected the job walks in the door and they say, who the heck is this person? So, but it's designed to do that, and then,
Would you like a bottle of water?
pardon me?
Would you like a bottle of water? Right here, I mean, it's not refrigerated, but it should be cool enough to make.
I don't need mine, this was not.
Yes, I didn't cough it out until I started talking.
No, of course not, yeah.
Once you start talking, then yeah.
And then, so after that, so we're talking about Friday morning, they do the tour of the city, and then Friday afternoon, they would do the individual interviews. We talk about 20 minutes apiece, depending on how many we bring in, it could be 30 minutes apiece, again, depends on how many candidates are there. And so that would take care of Friday morning and afternoon, then that evening, we'd have a reception with the And the real purpose of reception is for the townspeople, the people that are interested to meet the candidates and to ask them any questions they may have with them. And the council should be there also and get to know these people on more of a social level. The other thing I'd recommend on Friday at noon, that we have a lunch with the council, have a lunch with the candidates that you would set up maybe at the restaurant on the water. But I think that's important too, because again, try to get to know those people as well as, you know, their qualifications. And then Saturday morning would be the group interview where the council would interview them. And I've come up with some questions for that. And please, these are confidential. I do not believe, I'm not your attorney, but I don't believe they're subject to the open meeting law until it's done, because these are really test questions, and it's very important that they not leave your hands.
It's our understanding that questions at this point, like these, are considered like tests, and they are confidential until the interviews. So, like you basically don't want to give them out.
The current city manager was an applicant, so it's important that, and if you have any changes you want to make, you can discuss it at your, you can call me personally. I was gonna say discuss next council, but that's kind of awkward too, because then the public, so you can contact myself.
The point of the questions is to make sure and ask the same questions of each candidate. We've seen other councils that didn't do that, and the candidates left and said, oh, no, what, we didn't ask this guy that or that lady this. And we tried to cover all the subjects that were important to you. Now, as you go through the interviews, of course, if a candidate says something that causes you to ask another question, that's great. But just make sure you can use them as scoring sheets too as they come through. You know, this person did great on this one and this question, and float the next one or something like that. So that's it just facilitates your process. After a handful of interviews, people kind of forget who said what. So that's helpful.
So the process then would be, again, they come in Thursday, Friday, they have a first tour of the city, lunch with the council, and then the supervisors, and then you would do individual interviews. And then on Saturday morning would be the group interviews, and then after that, you'd have a break, and then after that, you would, you know, potentially make your selection.
So before that, we would recommend you have background checks prepared. We have sent a page out of the search guide. It was, actually, I chaired the committee. It took a year of people working together to prepare the search guide, approved both by the FCCMA, the City County Managers Group, and the Florida League Cities, and is featured on both of their web pages. But this was a attachment to it to talk about background checks, and it lists several companies that other cities in Florida have used successfully that you can use. But it costs you $200 per preliminary background check. Once you've decided on a final candidate, you may want to do a more in-depth background check that would cost more, but between now and the interviews, you can do the preliminary one.
We have to send them something, they have to sign off on that, right? Give us permission. We have to send them a form to allow us to do a background check.
You check with the company doing the background checks. If it's a
Depends on the
detailed check,
level of
that's
check.
Yeah.
They're just checking Google, things like that.
If you go into their
They do more
financials, then you have
detailed,
to
yes.
do, then you have to have them sign
I
on
knew
it.
at some point.
If you're going into any of their financials, then credit reports or anything such as that, then you have to have them sign
Well,
on.
when we had the interim guy from Daytona Beach that we were gonna hire, then he's going to sign something then to allow us to do a background check? Is that right? Is that right, Sheila? Am I remembering that properly?
The sheriff's
Oh,
department.
that was the sheriff's department, okay.
Yeah, that's good.
I just wanna make sure we're doing everything right.
The other thing is that we need to mail, whoever's coming, when you make your selection, and you know they're coming, you need to mail the finalists a copy of your budget, strategic plan, and organizational chart. We want them to review those before they come to me. A few other just heads up is that, please do not talk to candidates individually. Sometimes we get a problem when candidates want to talk to council members. I call you up and try and lobby for the job. Please, do not do that, and if someone is doing that, let us know. It's also important that the interim city manager, you know, stay out of the process and go through it, you know, apply for the job, go through it, but but not discuss the job with him at this time, and then, we also need a contact person. We have had some communication problems, so we do need a contact person to make sure that this is moving along smoothly. I don't know if you want the mayor to be our contact person, but we need somebody who we can talk to, make sure these things are moving along.
There's several steps here that we're recommending that the city needs to take. And I think George and I have a concern about the ability of the staff to handle all of them. They've mentioned to me high workload issues, vacancies, people out sick, and some other issues. And that was just from doing guidance up till now. Now the workload goes up. So I recommend you may want to get other people to handle some of these things, like setting up the meet and greet on Friday night. Somebody else may do that. I don't know if you want Sheila to do the background checks also, handle that. But somebody's obviously going to need to coordinate with each of the candidates that you choose. To say, okay, we've got interview schedules here. Please arrange to come down. Here's the nearest hotel. I don't know if, and normally the city would.
Sets up though.
Yeah, normally the city will pay for travel costs. So you may want to just see if you can get a deal with a area hotel that's close, and set that up. By the way, normally it's appropriate if someone has a spouse or a partner they want to bring, to pay for them also. It's not much more. But as you can imagine, I know in my case, I wouldn't think about taking a job until my wife had been there and said, yes, I want to live in that
She's
city.
taking it, she's saying yes to it.
Yeah.
We want that too.
I'd get a divorce quick if I did that.
If the spouse isn't happy, you're not gonna stay in that job very long.
Yeah, so there's a lot of steps here that need to be taken promptly and move ahead. But I think you've got some good applicants here. Obviously, you only need really one good applicant, but
That's what I told her. That's what I told you, didn't I? I said, you only need one.
well, I think you've got some good ones, and it often helps to interview them and decide for yourselves. And obviously, this is somebody you're going to have to live with day to day for a long time, so it's got to be, you've got to own the choice. So we'll just help guide you through it. But,
I just mentioned one thing about the second applicant on your list, and the fact that he was
yeah.
the recently former Plaquemine city manager.
Is that the same
Yes.
Troy Bell
yes,
Yes,
from Michigan?
Yes.
Okay.
yes.
And I,
we said this is just based on paper, so.
Okay.
Right, we
Put
understand,
somebody else in
we
there.
understand.
I'm just,
He has the experience, and he's got the time and all that, just,
He's got a great resume, but.
What was it? Did Commissioner Lori have a specific thing that he wanted to say? You just kind of.
I think we need to be very cautious as we go forward
I'm just
to
saying, he
anything.
just was recently terminated from the city of Plaquemine.
Right,
For cause. For cause.
Yeah. I,
And
Well, Jerome Adams was recently terminated from another city also, and that, that's depending on the reason for the termination, that's
with Mr. Bell, it's been all over the newspaper from the time he was hired till.
but again, so you might, if you like, you can change that out, and if you want to look at Wayne Flowers as somebody to go in, that's certainly recommend. Again, as long as we have two good candidates to interview, we're in good shape. More is better, but not have two good candidates.
4 is a good target. As George said earlier, it's not unusual for someone to drop out.
we know.
So, 4 is not
Some
a
drive
stretch.
right to town and don't even
Turn
show up,
around.
turn around.
And I think the
Turn
good news
around
we have
and
is virtually all of these are relatively nearby.
You've got a nice little city here. I think, if you can showcase it well in the tour and in the thing Friday night, hopefully we set the stage for that with the position profile. I think there's a lot of attractive things about being here. So, it's kind of like a first date, each side's trying to make an impression on the other. And,
And his spouse. Yeah, that would be a real great first day.
Remember, as Jim was saying, you're trying to sell the city also, it's just not a matter of somebody's so lucky to get the job here, it's also, you're trying to sell the city, why do they want to work here? Why is the city manager, why would they want to take this job? So
why are you a great commission to work for?
So, and I think, when Commissioner DeVito added the profile with some of the additional information, I was reading through that, I was like, gosh, that sounds like a great place to live. I mean, and it is.
Which
We
we
don't
put all
really-
that in there too, put all that in
You
there.
don't think about those assets and those things on a daily basis, we're just kind of used to them, so to someone else that's never been here, it's like, wow. Especially, things like the natural beauty, I mean, I know Commissioner DeVito gets to see the sunset over Lake Stella every day, and I kind of see it from down the street, but, and see the sunrise over Lake Crescent, I mean, it's just, sometimes it's just an amazing second or two that is,
Let's go get part of the tour.
yeah.
Show them the
Why
houses.
people move here.
They may wanna live
Same
here.
reason why people move here, so why we all move.
The mayor can take them for a jog in the morning.
Yeah, take them for a jog, yeah, take them for a run.
Well, I think the housing costs here
See if they can
also
keep up.
are very, the housing costs here also are very reasonable compared to
Okay,
other parts of the state, so I think that's a big selling point also.
Okay, so. I have
Absolutely, go
a
ahead.
question, where was I? Okay, so you folks have gotten the resumes on a weekly basis.
Yes.
I'm just a little concerned because I heard you say something about there's one of the names is on the qualified but not recommended list because something about his
Dwayne
education.
Flowers, he has an AS and not a bachelor's.
Yes.
He's in a small community in Georgia, which seems like it's very similar to.
Well, that's what we
Crescent
thought too, but.
He's working on a bachelor's
If you want to
degree.
knock somebody out, I would recommend putting him up.
He's working on his bachelor's, but he does not have it yet.
Okay, and so what about, Mr. Mendez? He's the one, he has a lot of recommendations from Miami.
Right?
Yeah, he's had a tremendous amount of jobs, there's a lot of gaps on his resume.
But
I believe, I couldn't remember, he had a 9-page resume, there were so many gaps that I couldn't, it's hard to make heads or tails and pieces of.
But that's, am I correct in reading that he doesn't list a position later than 2021?
No,
Look him up. He's got several positions he's had.
he's had more positions than I count.
Assistant manager in West Palm Beach,
Right, but I'm
chief
saying,
operating officer in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, finance director in Sweetwater, Florida, chief administrative officer of the Seminole Tribe here in Florida. A number of
I'm
interesting
just trying to
jobs.
figure out, he didn't say anything about current employment. I
Okay,
couldn't
come on.
No,
find.
there are gaps throughout his resume, there are many gaps where, and he says, if you read his cover letter closely, it says he's giving you the resume of relevant information, so apparently he's done other things too, I don't know.
The most recent job is 21 when he left the city of West Palm Beach.
That was what I was asking, was I seeing that right?
Yeah,
Correct.
and
Sometimes I have to graph on it.
he's highly qualified, but we didn't see him as a
Well-
great fit for the city.
I mean, to me, part of being highly qualified means, that there's nothing detrimental. And at this point, we don't know that, and that's not a good, I don't know, just a 3-year doesn't explain that.
If he was doing a job that's not necessarily government related, he might not have included it. I know it's always,
But I don't know that.
yeah, we don't know that for sure, but, he does have some very willing, Alice, and Alice from Miami Dade, that's, Miami Beach.
Yeah.
That's how you, we don't need really.
As an example of why it takes so long to go through these resumes. Sometimes I gotta almost redo them from scratch just to chronologically see what I've been doing.
Well, it's interesting, we were all taught how to do resumes, I think, in college or in high school, usually. And it was like, you do the most recent, and I see people that do that the other way around the first, and I'm like, since when the resumes go like, wow. I was always told 1-page resume was all you needed, and now it's like 3 pages if you're doing, and because I don't have to.
His was the most difficult to get through.
Well, and also back in the day, you didn't, no, back in the day, you didn't hold, there weren't, it seemed like people stayed, there was a lot more longevity. And so you didn't have pages and pages of employment. And so, you really could do it usually on a one sheeter. Today,
I find it,
that's not the case.
To us, sometimes short tenures, a lot of them are a red flag.
Yes.
And, of course, there's a lot of reasons that managers get fired. There's no adage that I tell new managers that there's only 2 kinds of managers in Florida. Those that have been fired and those that are going to be.
Yeah.
The because, it could be because of something they did wrong or didn't do.
Could be just a new council.
It could be a new council, because oftentimes there's contentious elections.
Being fired is not.
New council comes in, and we want to get rid of the old, we want to bring in our own.
Yeah.
That's fairly common. So it's
And-
not
Changing of the guard.
And when you look at that too, if they have been dismissed, you want to look at it from, especially from an HR perspective, with cause or without cause. So, you know, if they just come in there and that day the council just said, hey, you know, we're not happy for some reason. You know, somebody could be upset, somebody could want somebody else in there, you know, you just never know. So
And
you
that's
have,
part of why you're asking for a background check that looks just deep dive into Google, or whatever news coverage there was, and, try to find out why did they.
Most absolutely will. It'll be in there. You know, we've already did that about when we had applications for applicants a few months ago. In the interim, I mean, just took a few Google searches to find out why so-and-so left Lake Alfred and whatever, you know.
yeah, it's very easy today.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, they also, for most newspapers, some newspapers don't put their articles on, or they expect you to pay for reading them, and, you have a hard time with some of them.
right.
Depends.
So I guess really what you're looking for us to do is to kind of go through this and recommend to you those candidates that we feel that we would want to interview.
You decide who you want to interview, you're not recommending us, we.
No,
just
I know,
recommend-
but we're the ones that we decide that we want to interview and then share that information with you.
Yeah, set the date for the interviews, and then, start all these other steps moving forward and assign them to someone, to
Mayor.
get to know them.
For instance, if we're gonna go with January
I'm fine with that.
date,
If the commission is okay with that, I'm fine with being the contact person.
I believe that. I think that just you being the one that contacts them and tells them, invites them to the process and all that, I think it'd just be
Well, now,
classy and professional.
But then we have the issue, I mean, they get
no,
to.
I think, would you be the ones to contact them and invite them, or do you want
No,
one of us?
that's gotta be us.
Okay, so we'll do it. So, but I will not be the one to directly speak to them. But I can give the directive to staff, like if it's Karen, would you please invite them, or Sheila, would you please call and invite them for the interview? I don't think that I should be the one to directly speak to them.
Right.
I'm happy to do that, but just so that we don't muddy the water at all.
right,
But I can be the coordinator, if that's
That'd be
really,
great.
that
Yeah.
sounds to me like that's what you're looking for, is a coordinator.
yes.
Yeah, and they'll ask questions like, okay, what are you paying for? Are you paying for, you know, I can't agree to spend your money.
Right.
You know, that's be something with the city that.
So that's the things that we
Just so,
have to.
so, you know, we're your advisors, we're not
You're not-
employees of the
you're not
city, so
a
I
staff
feel comfortable talking to those candidates, because I'm not an employee of the city, I'm not authorized to speak on behalf of the city.
So is everyone okay with me being a coordinator?
Absolutely.
And
Commissioner DeVito?
Yeah, I have just a couple of questions. I mean, logistically, this is a lot for us. The senior advisors have mentioned that, staff has mentioned that it's a lot for them, and I think we talked about this before another city manager search. One question I have is, or two questions. One involves, our HR director, Sheila. How long does it take to get these background checks done? Because if we're inviting people to come for a January 9th date, and we're just gonna do it regardless of background checks, what's the timing of that? You know, what if something derogatory comes up?
I think the background check depends on what type of background check you're doing. I've never been involved where we did a background check with the city manager. Usually when they hire that person is responsible for upper management. Now for our regular employees, it usually takes about a week, and it depends on what company you're going through, how backed up they are, so it just depends on the company that you're trying to use as well.
Okay, so from the commission, two questions for us. Number one, do we have funds that we've identified in the budget that we're going to be using for the city manager search? Do we need to do that?
Yeah, we're gonna have to, and that's gonna have to be something that's gonna have to be a discussion we're gonna have to have. If we go to the sheriff's office and ask them to do an initial background search, And so this is something for us to think about and consider at this time. And please advise us otherwise if this is not, they could do an initial background search and we could, interview based on that. And then, of course, the final would be based on a very thorough background search. That would save some money, might even save some time. I mean, really, we want to, you know, or our top three, if we have our top three. But to do a background search on, say, 6 of these, that could be very expensive. I don't know, typically you said a couple of $100 per
I thought it was
person,
maybe 400 or something, I don't know.
400 per person?
It could be, but, you know, the sheriff's department will give you a criminal background.
Yeah.
That's probably all they would be able to do. What I think you probably should do is have someone assigned to check with 2 or 3 of the background check companies, call them, say, how much does it cost per person? What do you do? What, you know, and how long will it take?
Sheila needs to do that.
I mean,
Yeah,
I feel
If
like
you're
right now-
interviewing 3,
I know.
I would recommend you get, you know, preliminary background check on the 3. Then, you decide on X being your person you want to contract with, I would have a more thorough background check done at that time, which would be more expensive. One they have to sign off on and, you know, check financial background and all that kind of thing.
And so Sheila, that's what we would have to get from them. And I think that's what I'm looking at is how can we whittle this down so it would be like a preliminary check? And so they would do that, a preliminary, just a surface kind of, this is what we know about them. This is what, you know, and then of course, a very thorough background check, after we have had some deliberation.
And you just want to know if somebody was fired because they got wildly drunk and got in a bad wreck in a city vehicle.
Yeah,
Because that would be a real embarrassment if that came out later and you didn't know.
right.
So you're just trying to avoid those kinds of things. Or if someone was accused of some great crime in a previous city, you want to know that.
And that really and truly, we individually can do a Google check and that will tell us a lot.
When they, if I'm not mistaken, when the sheriff's office has done background checks for us in the past, they said, oh yeah, they're great, they're clean. I mean, we didn't get actually like a report that says, I mean, is that
No,
something that,
they've not figured
I
it out.
don't think they can give you
I mean, yeah, I just think it would be nice to have something on paper that says there's no crime or, you know.
They used to send something like that. We
Yeah.
didn't find anything about, like a report.
I just,
They don't.
okay, I just want to make sure that
Okay, Mayor, if I could
it's just an
follow up
oral.
on Commissioner Loy's comment about the sheriff. It does concern me, we don't see anything in writing, and when we hired a firm to help us, that was one thing they did, they provided extensive detail in writing. But I remember, at one point, not too long ago, I asked about the background checks because the issue that we had with, Dale Walker, our finance director, their background check did not find anything, and he
It was
apparently,
criminal. It was,
well,
Well, it
it
wasn't criminal.
yeah,
It was,
civil-
it was,
civil
it was
SEC.
as bad.
No, it
Because,
was bad.
still-
Yeah, it was-
well, and this, but as well, it turned out, and this was in the newspaper, there were, financial issues, and you should not have a finance director that has, financial issues and is being sued over them. But I asked, the colonel at that time, Colonel Wells, and he said they do different levels.
Yes.
So they do different levels. It wasn't clear to me what level they did for that particular finance director, but, he went into it, and I know, because I once worked for a sheriff's, office. It's their, sheriff's employees are not allowed to have any financial issues
Well, I
whatsoever.
believe that's what he said, that they did the first level is what they would do for just anyone that was applying for a job there at the sheriff's office. And then they would go a level above, which is a little more invasive, but it would show any crimes, anything, arrests, that kind of stuff, which.
But anyway, more to the point, to me, we're going to spend quite a bit of money on the people we invite here. It would give me more comfort, and I think it would make more sense to do, well, you folks are recommending that we do some kind of background check
Yes.
before we actually, before we invite them or before we confirm their invitation?
I would invite them now, have the background checks done. You probably get a company and get it done in 2 weeks. And if something great comes up that Ms. Walker would think needs to be brought to your attention, perhaps you could uninvite them if it was,
Well, and when we invite them too, and that's something too, that as we invite them, to let them know that we're doing a preliminary background check, and if there's anything that needs to be brought to our attention, to ask them to please bring that to our attention. Mr. Basinger does that when he does the hiring for that, and he also spends, you have to have 20 references, and he spends a minimum of 30 minutes apiece
Oh, you're talking
with each,
sheriff's office.
with each reference.
There's sheriff's office, I believe.
No, Colin,
Colin Benzinger. He's
Oh,
one of
Benzinger,
one of the
okay,
search
the
consultants.
yes,
the search
the hiring
consultant.
the hiring consultants, but he did say that, if there's anything. So that's a good opportunity for them too, to bring that to, because if you have something typically that you think might show up, at least we've given them that fair warning, and they might eliminate themselves just by that.
But first, obviously, some of these candidates you may already know, so first you want to decide, who you want to interview, and then based on the interviews, I think Jim's got it on the right track. You want to do a preliminary one, which can be done, some of these confirms could have pretty fast, and it's best if you do that before you do the invite, but it can be done after the invite. So we've also worked with a lot of cities that haven't done any background check until they're going to hire a person, then we do a background check there. The prices of these companies, they take from $200 to $3,000. I mean, it's anyone's
So my recommendation, commissioners, you've got these in front of you. We have the recommendations that Mr. Hanson and Mr. Forbes have provided us with. If there's any of the qualified but not recommended, if you look through that, what are there, 13 here? About 13.
13
Some of them
applications total.
Some of them are definitely not qualified. They're not qualified. Thank you for weeding those out, but including those, so at least we could see that. And I wish them the best. They, this is all, what they're achieving, they're trying to achieve. But you also have 2 on here, or 3 on here that they're qualified but not recommended. I would like to ask, you said Dwayne Flowers is because he has an AS and not his bachelor's, and we require a bachelor's.
But it's worked out as bachelor's.
But he has extensive experience, and sometimes, we have to look at that too. Yeah, he's the one from Georgia. Drew Wilson, so, your concern with Drew Wilson, I know with Jose Mendez that you had some concern because he had a lot of gaps, and from an HR perspective, when you see many gaps or you see a lot of changes, it throws a red flag. So with Drew Wilson, can you share with us why you felt that he was qualified but not recommended?
He's had a lot of big time experience in the federal government. He's been, he was a #1 staff assistant for Harry Reid.
Yeah.
Senator Reid. He also was, with a sergeant of arms for the Senate. He was,
Attorney for the Wildlife Foundation.
director. So he's got a lot of federal experience. He's also a lawyer, but he really doesn't have any experience directly at the local level. He also has an MPA, and he says in his resume that, he's always really wanted to be in city management and so forth, but, to be quite candid with you, I can't see where he would be a fit.
Seems very-
He doesn't have any local government experience.
I can't find his resume.
So it's,
He's the one with all the, Miami.
no, this is Drew Wilson. He's in there, and he's got the Senate of the, no, where is it? He's
Got a law degree from George Washington University, which is DC. He's got an MPA from Ohio State. And he's presently, since 27, presently the managing partner for Old Acre and Wilson Law Firm. He's also on 23 and 24, the senior vice president of National Fish and Wildlife Foundation. He was the chief of staff from 2015 and 16 for Senator Harry Reid. He's also has 2 terms as being part of the sergeant, between the sergeant arms and the deputy sergeant arms for the U.S. Senate. He's been the vice president of public policy for the Battelle Memorial Institute, and he's been a Senate Democratic staff director for Appropriations Subcommittee for Energy and Water Development. So a lot of high-level federal government experience, but none really here at the local level. So that's why we didn't recommend him. I couldn't say he was qualified. He's got an MBA. He's got a very impressive background, but it's not a background at this level.
On the other hand, Dwayne Flowers has, his work in Wadley, Georgia, was a city of a little over 1,000.
Yeah.
Very similar to your
Very
city.
similar to us.
The only reason we knocked him out, as I said before, the reason we recommend him, we couldn't qualify is because of he didn't get an AS in the state
Right.
capsules. But Jim wanted, we have these discussions, Jim wanted to put him on the list, and I said, we didn't put him on the list. I didn't meet, that requirement, but
Jose Mendez, on the other hand, the smallest city he worked in is 19,000.
Right.
So this might be kind of a culture shock.
Yeah.
And we'd have to get your hands into a lot more of the fine details in a smaller place like this.
You wear many hats as a city manager in a small community. I mean, you
You don't have
have
many people
to.
you can ask to do things.
That's not,
That's why
so,
Charles left us, because he has people that.
well,
I know that was.
Mayor, I still can't find Drew Wilson's resume. But could I make a motion? Are we down to motion time or saying who we would like to,
Yeah, you're welcome to make a motion.
I mean, are we ready to do that?
If everyone's ready. Yeah, go ahead.
Make a motion.
Go for it.
Oh,
Go for it. Let's see if it,
Let's see if
if it
it happens.
flies.
well, I guess,
Go ahead.
except that I haven't, I can't find Mr. Wilson's resume.
We'll see, Mr. Wilson, see where Dwayne Flowers was, Mr. Wilson, there's,
I've already,
there's Carl Brown, and then there's Drew Wilson right after that. So Carl Brown's a one pager.
I've already separated, could I borrow it briefly? I guess I move.
Please
and-
give it back.
Yeah, okay, I will. Oh, sorry, I got it, okay. I would like to move that we extend an invitation to interview to Jerome Adams, to Michael Brillhart, to Carl Brown, to Dwayne Flowers, and potentially to Jose Mendez and Drew Wilson, if anybody else thinks
Especially
we should
Willison.
add, just Willisman. Okay, there's a typo on the list.
Yeah, it's what, according to his resume, it's Willison.
Right.
I don't think that he knows how to spell it.
No, I agree, I just got it in my hands, so.
So your motion is to extend an invitation to Jerome Adams, Michael Brillhart, Carl Brown, Dwayne Flowers,
Yes.
Jose Mendez, and Drew Willison. Is that correct? You want, so everybody but Troy Bell?
Well, that would give us 6, and, I'm being more inclusive, just because we may have people drop out.
Okay, commissioners, do we have for promotion, do we have a second?
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second, we can continue our discussions.
Add, subtract.
Is there any other, does anybody else have any other?
I don't think we need 6. I look at Jerome Adams, Michael Brillhart, Dwayne Flowers, and Drew Willison. Those are the 4 things that
Wait, I didn't quite get it, so you're,
I don't want Carl Brown, and I don't want Jose, or Troy Bell. All the rest is fun for me.
wait, you don't want Carl Brown?
No.
And the reason for that is, I guess this is discussion.
Let me get him back out here.
The one thing with Jerome Adams, you said he was just recently, released. His tenure there was very short.
about a year.
Yeah, and prior to that, he went from, it looks like, from his work schedule from 2019 until he took that job, which was what, 2023?
Yeah.
Without any employment listed.
He's an IT guy. He's done a lot of IT work for various cities. He's worked for 2 cities in the IT area.
He was a city commissioner
He was a city commissioner also.
for Sebastian, which I don't necessarily think that's a recommendation. one way or the other, I don't know, I don't see any harm in including Carl Brown because the way these things go,
Yeah, that's what I was
people
saying.
drop out.
What you said, so like, it's probably like 4 of them, so.
I don't know, I mean, I don't think that we have a field that necessarily matches up well with our criteria and what we ideally would like to see. We don't necessarily know until we meet them, but we don't, I remember in a prior city manager search, initially, we had some people who were assistant city managers who were applying so that they could move up to be a city manager. That was a very desirable thing. We did not get them at that time, and we ultimately wound up hiring somebody who had been in local government, but not as an assistant city manager or a city manager. So I don't know, to me, I just think we should be a little more inclusive, but I don't think that I don't think we have, a field that everyone matches up with our criteria and kind of our plans. So anyway, so I made my motion, Commissioner Burton said she wanted to take out Carl Brown, right?
Carl Brown and Jose.
Okay, and I didn't really include Jose, but, I don't know.
And I'm gonna add this, I'm gonna just put food for thought on this. So oftentimes, this is and you both will know better, that oftentimes this is a process that they go through. That doesn't mean that they're absolutely interested in coming here, that they've done their research, they see this out there and their resume goes out to the world. So we don't know where their resumes are. So while I understand what Commissioner Burton is saying in that these are not the ones that she feels would be a good fit here, there's a good possibility by the time we reach out to them that they won't feel that they'll be a good fit either.
Confirm the salary range for hiring.
And that salary, exactly, our salary range, I know they do this as an exercise sometimes.
It's critical when you contact them and to invite them to actually come here when it gets to that point.
Yeah.
That you go over the salary range and say, we're serious about the salary range. If you can't accept the range, then drop out, you know, because I have had people that wouldn't even have accepted the interview, and then afterwards they want more money, or they won't come, and they play that game. So it's critical that before you write them in, that you explain to them that this is the salary, and you'll be able to accept that.
Starting point.
So Commissioner Burton, with your concerns, we currently have a motion and a second on the table.
I've already stated my concerns.
Okay.
I mean, it's open for discussion, but, I mean, maybe y'all want, like the idea of inviting all 6, but, I don't see where Carl Brown fits at all. He's a grants guy, he's not been a manager per se, a city manager. He's very, very focused on a very specific thing. We can't be a training ground either,
Well, unfortunately, I mean, I agree. I hate that we would be a training ground, but I think based on what I have learned in the city manager world, and talking to multiple city managers, is that in a community like ours, small community, is that oftentimes we're either a training ground or we're a retirement ground.
Yeah, but
Because you can go somewhere else and make more money.
But he's part of the Jacksonville Transportation Authority, assistant manager, capital, I don't know, something in grants, manager of accounting services, grants,
Well,
city of Jacksonville.
And we're not trying to talk you into anything. I'm just saying, so do you want to make a motion, an amendment? Do you want to try to amend your motion?
I guess I can amend your motion and say, I move to invite Michael Wilhart, Jerome Adams, Drew Wilson, is it Williston or Wilson?
Willis, that's
Willis.
Wilson.
And
Higher.
Steve Flowers. I mean, you know,
Well, wouldn't it be simpler just to say you would like to exclude Carl Brown from the motion?
you can do however you want.
Well, I think that's easier to understand,
Yeah, that's what.
because we have to vote on,
You said you wanted to exclude him, and who else?
Jose,
Jose Mendez. Okay,
Mendez, yes,
so if you want to do that, so is that gonna be your,
yes. I mean, there's-
do we have a second on that to exclude, Carl Brown and Jose Mendez? Okay, your amendment fails for lack of a second.
All right, then, let's invite them all. We got 13, let's get them all in here.
No, that's not what we're doing,
That's
that's not what we're, that's not, what there's, we're not inviting them, but these are the ones that, you know,
qualified or qualified in some way,
in some way.
and recommended.
And you never know,
Yes, right.
and honestly, you know, you never know until we have an opportunity to be exposed to them. Yes, sir.
We've had some really good city manager candidates have been selected with such a Jim and I done, but a little bit non-traditional. One of the good reasons that Jim and I go back and forth on these is because Jim is more of a traditionalist and I'm a little bit more open to someone that's coming in from a different avenue. But we had a candidate that's doing a great job that, had never worked for a city employee. She had worked for the sheriff's office, you know, in many different things. She'd also been in private business for a couple of years, so we invited her in and she got the job. She's been doing a great job ever since. So sometimes a little bit non-traditional candidates, are okay, and it depends on supply and demand. You know, we had 10 candidates with great background, great characteristics will be different. The last thing I'm gonna say is that, you know, Commissioner Vito's right. None of these candidates solely meet our requirements, but when I did this, I looked at the backgrounds in finance, planning, grants, public works, Main Street, code enforcement, CRAs, and you're right, nobody meets all these qualifications.
They're not gonna come from one of those.
There's no Superman or anyone.
And it
what
really
best fits. And what you're not seeing on paper is their energy to take advantage of.
people are more on the job.
That's why you're gonna talk to them.
You know, their ability to click with you and with the public. Those are things that, you have to gauge another way.
And that's why I love this process because, and having the one-on-one interview, I mean, yes, it seems that it's drawn out, it's complicated, but I think that it's what we deserve to do, or our citizens, our residents deserve. I mean, it's not just us and talking to them for 10 minutes and then hiring them. I mean, they need to meet them, and we want them to see the city too. And I think, you know, it seems a little weird, like we're going to put on a show for these people, but we need to. We need to sell them on living here instead of just giving me a job.
Well, and the one gentleman who said he really wants to, this is his opportunity to be part of the community and to bring back, to give back to a community. I mean, we're all here for that. We're all here for that reason. And I'm the first one to say that a degree does not does not necessarily make the employee or the person. I worked my way up and then I got to that point and I went back and went to school with a toddler on my lap. But it really is just a piece of paper at the end of the day. It's just a piece of paper at the end of the day. Because it's who you are and what you put into it. So we never know what we're going to get. We currently have a motion and a second. I do want to mention this, commissioners. They've asked us for me to be the coordinator, and I do believe that should possibly be part of the motion, so that there's no question.
Actually, Mayor, I think you have a good suggestion there, but can we do it as two separate motions?
That's fine, I just want to make sure that we have that covered as well, so that there's no question as we go forward. So with that, do we have any other discussion?
Well, I just wanted to say, if it makes the commissioner.
You good?
No, was there, an application for Michael?
Oh, yeah, someone who is the,
That's a good point.
yeah, I mean, we got one before.
We have his application for interim manager.
Yeah.
But you have a good point.
Is it?
It should be in there.
And you're sure he actually applied after he's been here? He applied?
He told me he wanted the job, so I asked him to send me the resume.
Okay.
And he did.
Yes.
Okay, that was actually a question that I had. Were all these, thank you, Commissioner Ward, were all these resumes timely received?
Yes.
Okay, so we are not considering anybody that came in after the deadline. Mayor, I just have one comment. If it makes Commissioner Burton feel any better, by including Carl Brown, it does not appear that he seems to be local. We would not be paying for a plane fare. I think he could, he would be a more economical interview than maybe.
Who's transfers? Well, I don't
Somebody's
care about that, I just don't think that.
You also need to set dates because
Right.
We're
you're looking at airport.
If y'all think he might do a job, not, I think.
Are they all,
Let's keep it slow down, we'll have to figure it out.
they're Florida,
Yeah.
anyway. But anyway, good catch, Commissioner Moore. Good. So Commissioner Gilhart did apply. Okay.
Okay.
We gotta keep to the.
Okay, so we currently have a motion, and a motion for that we are asked to invite to be interviewed Jerome Adams, Michael Brillhart, Carl Brown, Dwayne Flowers, Jose Mendez, and Drew Wilson, correct? Correct, okay. Karen, will you do a roll call for us, please?
Commissioner Burton,
No.
Commissioner Moore,
Can I say aye?
Into the mic.
Aye.
There you go.
Commissioner Lori,
Aye.
Commissioner DeVito,
Aye.
Mayor Myers.
Aye.
There's a point where it's usually subject to a background check.
Okay. And then I'm gonna ask the commission to also consider from a coordinator.
I'd like to move that Mayor Myers is the coordinator for the search, and we'll make sure that everything is set up on time and people are talked to.
But,
And also that, you can reach out to any of us if there's anything that we can help. Please don't get overwhelmed.
but do you want to include that she, will not have
I was
direct
gonna have that
contact?
I do not have direct contact with, I was gonna add that we do not have direct
That
contact
she
with,
doesn't have to, I just think.
use my, yeah.
Coordinating without direct contact.
I'll be coordinating
without
with
direct
staff,
contact.
so let's do it that way. I'll be coordinating with staff
And senior advisors.
And senior advisors.
and senior advisors.
I'll second that.
Okay, do we have any other discussion on that? Commissioner Burton? Anything?
You think you can do the job?
Probably
Okay,
not.
I'll have to really think harder on it, but.
Probably not, but I'll do my darndest. I'll do
So you
my,
can reach out to us.
I'll do my
We're all
darndest.
here.
If there's no other discussion on that, Karen, if you'll do a roll call, please.
Commissioner DeVito,
Aye.
Commissioner Lori,
Aye.
Commissioner Moore,
Aye.
Commissioner Burton,
Aye.
Mayor Myers.
Aye.
And,
So approved.
and I'd like to make a motion that we set up the dates on January 7th and 9th, is that what it is?
9th through the
9th
11th.
and the 11th, excuse me, for these interviews, and the schedule is to be
Really, it
coordinated by
would
the
be
coordinator.
the 10th and the 11th.
Well, the 10th and the
because-
9th,
And
but
the
Yeah.
11th of what?
overall, can be here.
Yeah.
January?
January, yes.
Yeah.
Did I say that? Sorry.
January. So,
So,
I got that down right.
But, so they would come in the 9th if they were probably staying.
If they're having to travel, then we would have to make travel arrangements depending on, so we would do that. With the understanding that as they come into town,
They would come here and sit for a meeting.
no, we're trying to get applicants.
Wait to hire them before that.
We'll have to make sure that we can, Karen will have to look into that as far as, what's available here for lodging and,
Some Airbnbs on there.
or what's in Black for lodging.
And Deland too.
And DeLand too, because DeLand, they're
So
kind
we're
of
looking
sit in the
at
middle.
6 rooms.
Well,
It depends.
they need 2 rooms and we need, well, 6.
It depends.
Yes.
Depends
But
on.
we're going to,
And like the gentleman, the one from Sebastian, I mean, he'll probably be able to drive in Friday morning. And if we need to, he can spend the night, Friday night,
Wait, but what are the dates that we're setting?
the 10th and the 11th.
Oh, I thought BJ said the
the
ninth.
9th, because
The
if they're
9th
coming
is a
from far
commission
away.
meeting.
Right.
So he said they would be probably traveling in that day so that they would be ready for
the next-
Friday morning.
Because I mean, if they're coming from Sebastian or Georgia, I don't know where Georgia, I don't
I don't know how
I mean, that's a
far.
whole nother state, like 5 hours
It
away.
is a whole nother state,
Oh, I know that. It's like 5 hours away.
He's
yeah.
not familiar with drive time, is what you're saying.
I am.
So we can,
I don't know where
so we
it's at.
can, we'll take care of that. And,
Set up a lunch and, oh, we can have, that's the place down there.
Don't we need a second?
Who said,
Did I second it?
no, I made a motion, right? So, yeah.
he's made a motion, we haven't had a second yet.
I'll second it.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Do we have any discussion about that date? Does anybody have a conflict?
The dates are the 10th and.
The 11th.
Yeah.
So
So they will be
Friday
here
and
all,
Saturday.
yeah.
Okay.
They will be here all day. We will not, so this would be the schedule. They would come in that morning, they would be working and meeting staff and possibly going on tours of the city and learning about the city. In the past, some of the commissioners have taken them on tours, but probably in this case, it should be somebody else, so we'll do that. And then they're asking us to have lunch with them, at noon. So that's where we would come into play, is at lunch. And then we would do our interviews.
Can we get a caterer to do lunch
Yes,
in
we're
here?
gonna do Horvath, like we did for Charles.
Is that possible?
I think
That's possible, you could,
They were
it
suggesting-
must be a better setting, but.
I think I here. Oh, I mean.
Yeah.
we wanted to cut off.
We would probably, we could take
And
them,
they'll be busy because then you won't have anyone in town.
well, but,
Well, you're trying to show the applicants
But-
what you
hold on, everybody.
She's the coordinator, let her.
Everybody, we can do 3Bs. We can figure it out for 3Bs. If they set it, if we do it, even if we do it at 1 o'clock, chances are they're gonna have a busy morning, do it at 1 o'clock. We can come in here at 2:30, start up our interviews. You said 30 minutes each per person, about 30 minutes.
20 to 30, depends on how many you bring in.
Start up our interviews, and then we could have, you want an evening reception that Friday evening you're
Yes.
recommending. I will say this, it will probably be in here, but we'll make sure that it's nice. We've done it in here for several other ones. And it'll be nice, there'll be an opportunity for the community to come in, meet them and talk to them. And, and then Saturday morning, we'll resume at, say, 9 o'clock in the morning. And so that would be your schedule, commissioners. So you need to block off noon till probably 7:30, 8 o'clock on that Friday. And then from 9 AM until we get it done on Saturday morning.
So, okay, so the deal is we're gonna do the 3Bs down there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, because he's right, you're trying to show the city off. And although I love, it's just a cold day like
Yeah,
today.
yeah.
I know,
It won't work.
It won't work. Well, for me, and,
Well-
you know, and I do want to say this, that with any of these applicants and commissioners, I think, I want y'all to be aware of this also, is, our staff has gone through a lot. And we've got some very low morale issues right now amongst our office. And so as we go forward, you know, this is something, they've gone through a lot, we've gone through a lot. We've gone through 4 city managers in 4 years.
I know.
All of them, like
Yeah.
one.
And that's a lot on staff, because with each one, it brings a different flavor, something different that they're looking for. So there's a lot of unknowns. It's a big challenge. So as we go forward, you know, I'm just asking everyone, let's be sensitive to that, and especially with our staff. They are going through a lot. You know, it's a lot of change, and some of us handle change better than others. And so I'm gonna close with that. And we thank you both for everything. We're sorry that there was some miscommunication, quite honestly. Everything works out the way it should. And I do believe that by us getting it this way, it's worked out. We've had a chance to just to kind of eyeball it. We immediately, I think most of us could figure out which ones worked and which ones won't work. So we thank you both for your patience and
And we appreciate your help.
And we appreciate your help immensely, immensely, yeah.
Did we vote on?
We haven't voted yet.
No.
Set the date.
We haven't voted yet, I'm still talking. So, if everyone's good with that date, Karen, do you have any issues with that date?
There's,
Is there any
um,
cities?
there's something that's blocked off on the 9th, but,
That's a commission meeting.
I mean, not the 9th, I'm sorry, the 10th. It says out at 8 AM, so I'm not sure, it says business meeting, so I'm not sure who that belongs to. Because I can't get in to see, it just says out business meeting, so I don't know if it
Okay, well,
was Charles's or if it was.
As long as it's not any of ours,
Yeah.
then I think we're okay. I think we're okay. So I'm gonna, Karen, if you'll do a roll call on that, please, for the date.
Okay. Commissioner Burton?
Aye.
Commissioner Moore?
Aye.
Commissioner Lori?
Aye.
Commissioner DeVito?
Aye.
Mayor Myers?
Aye. So approved.
Your voice is not as deep as Mr. Banks.
No.
I always said that,
Mayor, I
Yes.
have a couple things. I took some notes and you're coordinating, but, based on what the senior advisor said and what you said, whoever is making the calls, and y'all might have something to add to this, they're supposed to ask the candidate, will you for sure accept the salary range? And, is there anything, notify them that we will be doing a preliminary background check, and then ask, this was yours, is there anything at this time you want to share with us that would negatively reflect on the city? So I just wanted to kind of highlight those, and then it seems to me it would be helpful if staff could update us, all the commission, by email anytime there's a development. And it occurs to me, for example, I would specifically want to know if there are candidates who, when they're called, they decline.
I think we
They
can
drop
do,
out.
that, we'll send that out.
But
We'll make sure, Karen, that if one declines, we'll work on that, making sure that the commission knows that this applicant is no longer interested.
And then my question to the commission is, if we fall below a certain number, should we have a workshop or a meeting to talk about that before the night? I mean, I think we should be prepared for whatever reason, to have a workshop or a special meeting. I don't know what might come up, but my concern would be if we drop out, have dropouts below a certain.
The only
number.
thing would happen is if we drop out below, what would we say our threshold would be 3?
Two.
I would say 2, actually.
2,
You have
okay.
2 good candidates.
If we have 2 good candidates, but what if we don't have,
Two.
what if we have 2 left and they're not the best candidates?
Let's not play what ifs, let's cross that bridge, I mean.
So then we,
we.
let me, okay, if that happens, then what we would do is I would call a special meeting, an emergency meeting. And then at that point in time, we'd have to make a decision as to whether or not we open it up for applications, more applications. Things have changed since we closed this out November 15th, through the elections. You don't know what's available out there now. So things have changed, possibly. And so we would have to open it up then. So we would cross that bridge if that happens, and when we know it.
I'm just saying, I think we need to be prepared to
We will.
come back together.
We're always prepared for such events.
Okay.
So could we talk about the next steps for
Yes,
just a
sir.
second?
Yes, sir, absolutely.
So the staff member's gonna contact these 6 people and let them know we're gonna do a background check. And we already had a letter sent to all the applicants that says basically the applications for the position of city manager are currently under review, and we appreciate your patience during this process. The city will be selecting finalists sometime in December and anticipate scheduling interviews in January. After the finalists are selected, you'll be notified as to your application status. So I've got a draft letter here, which I'll give to the mayor, that basically just tells the people who are no longer under consideration, they're no longer under consideration. And then, so that'll need to go out, and then we'll, obviously, we're gonna look through the companies and get one of those companies for the background checks. And then, based on the background checks, if anybody you don't think passes, then you're gonna have to make a new selection.
Or just?
Meanwhile, Jim and I'll be in contact as we go along.
Okay,
And
and
Jim and
then,
I need to know if people who's going back out and back, so we need the information also, because when I do the scheduling for the actual interview process, obviously, it's very dependent on how many people are coming in.
Right. That makes sense.
okay. And at the December 12th meeting, Karen, we are going to need to talk about, Sheila, do you think by then you could get, from that list of background checks, well, you have already reached out to them, we really kind of need to know from a budgetary standpoint what we'd be looking at. So we're gonna need to discuss that at the December 12th meeting as well, and make sure that we have an approval on that.
Yeah.
Okay,
We gotta find the money.
There's some, we have stuff to do in the future budget adjustment. So it'll be up.
do we have, is there anything else you can think of at this time?
Just to, might note, we have been asked to help Black in their search, but only in reviewing the candidates.
Yeah.
They're really doing their search in-house, and we generally don't work with cities that large, they're over 10,000. But we did agree, so in case you happen to see our name in the newspaper, we've been asked to review candidates for them also.
Well, I wish we'd known this sooner, maybe, we could have. I'm just kidding.
No, just give us some of the rejects or something.
No, I was just gonna say, bless your heart.
I know, good luck.
No, but
That'll be
that's
fine.
very nice to mention it to us.
Yeah, thank
Appreciate
you,
it.
huh?
Mayor, did I give you back Mr. Willis'
No.
resume? Okay, because I really don't think I have them, but there's one.
I can email you the whole packet if you want.
No, I think I have
We'll
it.
make sure we get it.
Set
Do
that.
you have, is there, are you done with us?
Yes.
You're done with us, okay. So commissioners, let's go back to our parade. I need to know who all is, participating.
I have the signs for my wheelchair. That's
Okay.
on the sign. It's the BJY Commissioner.
Okay,
Nice there.
That's
the
awesome.
city logo. It looks really cool.
that's awesome.
Last time I remember, like,
You gonna be it?
I'm going,
Well,
yeah, I'll be there something, Commissioner, my sorority, us concerned citizens.
you gotta come with us though.
You wear a lot of hats.
Yeah, well, I'm gonna be the commissioner.
Okay, I think you should be the commissioner. So how we're staging it, and Commissioner Burton, I know you're working on this too. How we're staging it is your VIPs and your elected officials, they'll all be in one spot at the front. They'll lead, and then everyone's gonna fall in from there. So really, if you're gonna be in your golf cart, I mean, we're asking the floats and all to show up about 11:30, anywhere between 11:30 and noon. If you're gonna be in a golf cart, you know to go to South State Bank, you're gonna be in that parking lot, and then you'll fall in order there.
I know, I just agree.
Who's the grand marshal?
Bill Pickens,
Oh,
Bill Pickens, he's our outgoing commissioner,
that's fine.
for South Putnam, and so that was,
What about JR, the new one? Why are they both right? Why don't we both
because
right?
JR, is gonna be in the parade with the county commissioners.
Oh, duh, that's right. They did ride a fire truck. That was why I always got chips years ago in the Catfish Festival. When I was first elected, I thought I got part of a fire truck.
So,
But they said, no, we had to ride the boat.
Mayor, I have one request,
Yes.
or two requests. At some meeting before one of our parades, Commissioner Lloyd, brought up the fact that the commission used to be in the parade together, I think your first term.
Yeah, we
Did they-
rode in the fire boat. Because I had
Okay.
the boat donated and we all rode the boat.
Okay, and was there a sign that said Crescent
Yeah.
City Commission?
Yeah.
I think it would be nice if we would consider that in future, going as a group instead of.
I was gonna order the signs for everybody. Sorry.
Right.
I know you just ordered them for yourself, but that's.
I know, I bought mine last year, or mine.
Go ahead, go ahead.
I'll order them next year. I can design them, so.
I mean,
I'll show you.
it's too late now
Yeah, I know, I'm sorry.
to arrange for that. But the other, so I guess my two requests are that we think about finding a way to be more conveyed together and to have a sign that says Crescent City Commission. But until we do that, the last parade we had, whichever one it was, if we could try to stay together and present a unified, appearance, I'm either gonna bring my golf cart or walk beside Commissioner Lori. But we really spread out, we were not together, we were not identifiable as a commission, and there were some huge gaps, and it was our section of the parade. And I think that makes that hard for the crowd and the people in back of us, but also I just think we should show, you know, that we're together, the way the county commission does.
And JR has asked, he's asked to walk also, so he'll walk and,
So you usually walk.
I
We
walk,
walk with Bill.
yeah, I walk with Bill,
And
so
then.
Oh, so where are we starting to walk?
South Bank.
South
South State Bank. So that's where, and it's going down to Lemon. You of course can break off at the park if you want to.
Well, that's just one more block, isn't it?
Huh?
Lemon's one more block from.
Yeah, it's just one more
So
block.
There's not a lot of people.
breaking off past the
But if
Methodist
you're
church.
walking, yeah, so you're breaking off.
But you understand, if we're leading and we're walking, it really slows, it takes everything else off pace.
Well,
You understand that?
but we also have the band, so the band is walking, we've got cheerleaders walking.
But there's a walk and then there's a march.
Yeah,
Okay, I'll leave it at that.
Well, we didn't, okay, the problem was not,
You understand what I'm saying?
the problem was not the pace of people walking. The problem is if we go off to the side and talk to people, that tends to create gaps. And just, well, I don't know, Commissioner Burton, are you gonna be in a car again this year?
No.
Okay. Are you?
Actually, I was invited to be somewhere else.
No,
I was told that was actually.
We can have all five of us together. I did it last year because Harry was in the full program.
But I do know, last year also, we had our commissioners.
Right.
Actually, we had our mayor and a commissioner, our county commissioner were walking.
Right.
And they kept throwing candy and they're going.
Well,
"Oh,
they
they
weren't
did
going in a
this,
straight line."
They did
Well,
this.
right, I think we need to
They
do,
can't do that.
I would
You
second
can't do
that.
that.
You have to go in a straight line and be the correct.
Yes,
I would.
that's all I'm saying.
Right, but one thing we could do is, the first year I was in a parade, I, went with, I think there were a couple of golf carts. The commission was in a couple of golf carts. They weren't labeled. But I rode with Judy West. And then, I don't know who, I think we had a couple of golf carts and we all went together.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Right, and BJ's obviously gonna be in his power chair.
you could pull us.
But either, and it works, like I didn't have a problem keeping up with BJ's
No, I
power
mean, I
chair.
stayed at your pace, yeah.
Or
I mean, that's.
you didn't go off and leave me, that was good,
No, I mean,
so,
I was,
Okay.
I agree.
So just
If
consider
you guys
all
like
of those
it,
things,
I can
but
just
you're
write
right,
it.
we can't be going
Okay.
here and there and everywhere, we have to kind of
Um,
march. you know?
next year I will
Well,
get them.
yeah, because-
I only meant to do that and I ordered it like 3 in the morning, fell asleep and completely forgot.
well,
Until I
so,
got the email saying, oh, you're just fine, I'm like, thank you, I
Okay.
over them.
do we need a sergeant at arms for the parade to make sure that people stay in the straight line? I don't know.
I think it's all our.
No, okay, so,
Thank you very much.
Do we have anything else? I'm very pleased with the response we've had from the parade, seeing as we took
That's
it
awesome.
over at
How
a
many
very,
entries?
we have probably, I'm gonna say we have maybe 50 entries.
Wow.
Yeah.
People-
And it's growing, so people are continuing to call me
One
and
is the city,
Yeah.
obviously.
everybody, and
Last year,
just-
that was cool.
a lot of
I like that, that was really neat.
For the record, I offered to make calls and help in some way.
And we did,
I
Miriam
was not
Braddock has been helping with this, and so,
No one
and we just decided that it was probably best, just so that everybody doesn't have different, so,
I got a good perspective.
and try to take it off of everybody, so they don't have to worry about it, so with that, yes.
On a similar item, I keep getting emails from you saying, can you come to my office? I'm busy, don't call me, just email me. And obviously, it's not
Doesn't
you.
have-
That's not me,
No,
I've been hacked,
no, that's.
mine has been hacked, so somebody has
But
hacked,
there's-
somebody said to please Dave, so if you do get that, Anybody out there,
I put it to spam.
yeah, put it to, because,
Yes.
Dave got one from me where I was asking him to get all these gift cards.
Well, I did double check.
And it wasn't even my
It's not your email
email,
address, it just has
it's
your
not
name.
my email.
Right,
It's
Can I just hand you something? This is
Yes,
just a draft. You can change it if you want the leaves to go out to people who were not selected, just so
Okay.
you know one, no one.
Oh, and thank you very much for thinking of everything.
I know, we thought of
Very
everything.
complete.
We've done a lot of these.
Do you live in Winter Park?
Pardon
Do you live in Winter Park?
Yeah, I live in Winter
Where,
Park.
where did you work as a city manager? And
Well, I was a city manager for 40 consecutive years in only 3 cities. I was city manager for almost 24 years in Jacksonville Beach, right up the road. I was city manager for 10 years in the Las Vegas, Nevada metropolitan area, Boulder City, home of Hoover Dam.
Yeah.
I was city manager for 6 years in Claremont, Florida. And after 40 years, when I checked, I only had half my sanity left. I retired.
and now you do this,
Claremont, I was just in
Claremont.
Claremont and had lunch
Claremont
in
is the
Claremont, and it is
That place is just.
adorable. It is,
It has grown so much, it's insane.
it has, it's changed a lot, but it was very inviting, especially in the downtown area, so, yeah, it was very impressive. From years ago, from when I used to go, we used to go through Claremont, so anyway.
Yeah, I got citrus tower, I used to, our houses, you know, our citrus trees.
About those,
Thank you,
When
Joe.
I was there was a lot of cities.
Have a
Thank
safe
you.
drive home.
Yes,
Thank you
Commissioner
very much.
Vito, and then I'm ready to wrap this up.
yeah, me too, about those spam emails, and
I
maybe,
was going to.
our IT person needs to get with Commissioner Moore and fill her in on what to do. I usually make a screenshot of mine, but, I noticed, our clerk has said we can delete them. And I noticed there's a thing on the city email, what is it? We have Microsoft, right?
Microsoft.
There's a thing that says report. If you click on the bar at the bottom where it says report,
And
it
that's,
takes
and
it
you
away.
need to do that because that goes back to the sitting server that the email came from, and then it'll get marked and blacklisted. So you
Right.
have to do that, you should always do that.
And I know
But
Mark
additionally-
is working on it, I believe.
Well, we do have, I don't want to get into it, but there's a thing called DMARC, which is how all emails are verified now. And ours is not set up in DMARC, so if sometimes we email stuff, it's gonna get put in quarantine from us because we don't have the proper stuff set up on our domain. Like I just set all up to VHS. So I mean, I'd like to talk to them about how to do that, because it's something that helps, it's better for everybody.
Okay, thank you. Can I get a motion to dismiss,
So moved.
to adjourn, yes?
I move that we adjourn.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Remember, guys, this is not, don't lose these questions.
And
Don't let
don't
me see
share
them.
them, and
Don't
don't
let
share
Michael
them.
see them, don't,